not the one I wanted. Hold on. Hey guys, it's me. It's Michael B. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for another episode of Chillin' Chat. For you wrestling fans out there, we're heading into WrestleMania season, and what better way to celebrate than talking about one of my favorite arcade games of all time, WrestleFest. And it seems now more likely than ever there's a chance Arcade1Up may take a crack at releasing this cabinet. I think they certainly can, and I'll explain that tonight. But there's a question of, yes, they can release it, but should they? With what concessions they would have to make it work? Does it even make sense? Anyways, we're going to talk about this a bunch tonight, as well as some other stuff going on in my life and other news in the retro gaming and home arcade space. Thank you so much for spending your time with me Monday night, guys. I always appreciate it. This is Chillin' Chat with Michael B. All right, I got the right screen there. So, is poop everywhere still going to happen? I don't think so, B-Kong. It's possible, and it's actually great that B is here tonight. So you guys may be questioning why I'm talking about this now. I've talked about WWF Wrestlefest and Arcade1Up for years, but I want to do a real deep dive on it tonight. And it's actually because B did a stream last night, and I just want to bring that up really quickly and tell you about it. So let me get it going here. B did a fun stream last night. I got to watch most of it. B even asked me to possibly jump in and join him for a little bit, but unfortunately I was in bed and could not do so. But let me just bring it up on screen here. Of course, there's ads that I've got to get through. So many ads, B. B, you're rich. You don't need the money from the ads. So anyways, I'm just going to pull this up on screen here now and show you. So last night, B was doing this stream talking about like all the WWF wrestling arcade games that were out there. I participated. I thought it was a great stream. And during the stream, one of B's viewers made a joke and said, hey, I bet you Michael B is going to take information from the stream and make a 20-minute video tomorrow talking about WrestleFest coming to Arcade1Up. 1 second. Well, I didn't want to disappoint that person, but the truth is, come on, guys, you know me better than that. I'm not going to take some information, a small, tiny bit of information from B's stream and try to make a 20-minute long-winded video. No, I'm going to triple down on that shit, and I'm going to do an hour-long live stream on it. Take that! Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. So anyways, yeah, tonight we're going to talk about doing the deep dive on WrestleFest, possibly coming to Arcade1Up, what it'll look like, and, you know, other stuff. And really the question is, should they even do that? If the version of WrestleFest they have to make is something fans will want, or will they end up with another situation, kind of like NFL Blitz, where it's not the game we all remember. Anyways, before we get started, I want to just say hello to a couple people here in the chat, see who's talking to me tonight and who's joined. I see Chris McCloy, LOL, JJ McQuaid, it's basically Double Dragon. Yeah, WrestleFest is done by Technos. It's all the wrestlers with basically Double Dragon art. It's beautiful. Superstars was the exact same way. Goofyfoot, you're off the hook, Goofyfoot. Nice, not me. Oh, my God, before I do that, I forgot to add people to this. 1 second, guys. I apologize. I was actually in a work meeting right up until about 10 minutes ago, so I'm a little late getting going, so I'm not as ready as I normally would be, guys. Very sorry. So Goofyfoot says, nice, not me. No, it's not you, Goofyfoot. It was another viewer. Mike's name should be Triple Down Mike. B-Kong knows I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Rich Wadello's here. Evening all. Let's basically... What is going on? Stuff keeps coming up in my chat. It's not $1 Million Man, JT. He is the Canadian Earthquake. Yeah, Mrs. Kong's R Us last night called me the Canadian Earthquake. She said I look like Earthquake. My heart was broken, but it's okay. Nooner says, pooping everywhere metaphorically is okay. I do that constantly. Love playing WrestleFest on my MVSX. Yeah, there's a really good version of it there. It also works really well on the Act Games Legends Ultimate as well. Hey, Mike, is this a theme night? P-Dubs is at Raw tonight, too. That's true. P-Dubs and his son are gone to Raw tonight. Mike Hockhart says, so Michael B, is this a show where we watch along with Monday Night Raw, or are we supposed to pretend WWF ceased operation in 1991 after the release of WrestleFest? Yes, they ceased operation in 1991 after WrestleFest. That is correct. And we got a super chat here from our buddy Stringer Films. No, they shouldn't release it. That is all. Thanks, Stringer Films. I appreciate it. So sorry, Mike, on behalf of Mrs. Comics R Us. It's okay. It's okay. And Jason knows I look more like the $1 Million Man. Anyways, guys, so last night, B brought up the fact that John D was going to be at WrestleMania this past weekend, and he kind of alluded to the fact that maybe he's there to talk some licensing. We all know that WrestleFest is a game Arcade1Up have had on their radar for a number of years. Hell, when Arcade1Up first came out, there were 3 cabs that I said, oh man, I dreamed they would do when I first bought my 3/4 scale Street Fighter II cabinet. And those were TMNT, which they did the very next year, and we also never got G.I. Joe, but I mean, that's a big request. But the other one was WrestleFest, and I just said, you know what? It's an absolute licensing nightmare in order for Arcade1Up to get WrestleFest. I didn't think it was a possibility, and for those of you that haven't been following along, the reason why it's so difficult is, for one, the company that actually made the WWF games is Technos, who Arcade1Up weren't working with at the time. Oh my God, Stephen Rainwater, huge super chat. Give us a WrestleMania 39 prediction, Michael B. Roman or Cody. Keep up the awesome work. Thanks again, Penthouse Arcade. Thank you very much, Stephen Rainwater. I appreciate it, brother. WrestleMania prediction, it's really hard to say. It depends on if there are plans for The Rock to ever actually come back, because that Roman story that's been going on now for 3 years is leading to a face-off with The Rock. If The Rock is going to come back, he retains and runs another 356 right up to WrestleMania next year, or 352. I can't remember how many days are in a year. 352 or 356. What is it? Anyways, 356 or 352 right up to WrestleMania next year, where he finally has to face off with The Rock. I think they were hoping to do it this year, with WrestleMania being in Hollywood and The Rock being one of the biggest actors of all time, but I just don't think the timing worked out for whatever reason. I hope they go with Cody. It's time some things changed in WWE. I'm not necessarily saying Roman shouldn't be champion, but you got 2 brands. Either get rid of the brand split or go back to having 2 separate world champions. So that's what I hope they do. Anyways, thank you very much for the super chat, brother. I appreciate that. $365. There it is. $365. $356. What am I saying? So anyways, getting back to topic. So the thing about WrestleFest, why it was so difficult to do, one is Arcade1Up would first have to develop a relationship with Technos, who's the game's original publisher, which they weren't doing at the time. You guys know already that Double Dragon came to iArcade. Arcade1Up typically doesn't work with companies that work with other companies in the home arcade space, so that was a barrier to them starting to do it. The other thing is the fact that the WWF is extremely difficult to work with at times, so they would have to get the WWF on board. And then, much like getting those 2 parties to agree, then they would have to get the rights and likeness to every individual in each of the games. And that's where this gets tricky, because some of the stuff is pretty easy, because like with the NBA Players Association and with the NFL, I forget what the NFL Players Association is called, or whatever it is, the Hall of Fame Association. If the WWE have people under Legends contracts, they can use their likeness in any game that they license to Arcade1Up. However, if they're not under Legends contracts, it gets a bit tricky, because then Arcade1Up would have to go outside that, approach the management team for each of these individuals personally, and then get them to agree to it. Then they have to go back and get WWE to agree to let Arcade1Up use those persons in the game. And there's some people that just don't make sense for WWE to continue to work with due to concussion lawsuits, other things like that. So you run into a situation where if you overcome the first 2 hurdles, the third hurdle may be a little overwhelming. So in order for Arcade1Up to actually release WrestleFest in the 3/4 scale format, bring it to our homes, there'd have to be several possible concessions made that would drastically change the game. And that in lies the question, do you guys want a version of WrestleFest that isn't the same WrestleFest that you guys played in the arcades when you were kids? Is that okay? That's the $1,000,000 question. You guys let me know in the comments, would you guys be okay with an altered version of WrestleFest before I really get into how specifically it will be altered? Paul Minderman says no. Anybody else? Or are you just happy to have WrestleFest in some capacity? Man, I don't know what is going on with my chat tonight, but Chris McCoy says, not me. There's some comments not coming through for some reason. I don't know what's going on. No Demolition or no Mr. Perfect is a no-go. Gotta be as close to classic as possible. I prefer women's mud wrestling. Yeah, I'm wondering when the Glow game is going to come out, right? Maybe. Well, it depends on what it's going to be. So anyways, if you guys have trouble remembering what a version of WrestleFest would be that doesn't have all the classic superstars and maybe has WWE's current regime putting their fingers into it and making it more along the lines of what they think it is, I've got something lined up for you. Let me just bring it up here now. So you guys may remember all the way back to 2013, Xbox Arcade was doing some really cool stuff. They released TMNT, the arcade game for play. They released The Simpsons. I think they released X-Men too. So there were all these classic arcade games that were all of a sudden playable on Xbox Arcade. But it didn't stop there, because they also went out of their way and they got WrestleFest coming to Xbox 360. It just, unfortunately, wasn't exactly the WrestleFest we remember. And this is a little bit of my concern here, guys. So I'm going to share my screen here now. I'll put this up. So this is actually WrestleFest for the 360 with modern upgrades. And as you can see, I don't know what the hell this game was. It was WrestleFest in theory, but it wasn't really WrestleFest. There were a lot of superstars missing, so they had to add new people in. Plus, they made like downloadable content, additional people, additional ring sets. But you know what? It had a lot of the original concepts and stuff like that. It was nice, but it wasn't exactly WrestleFest. And that's what I'm concerned about when Arcade1Up does this. If you go back and you remember NFL Blitz, I played NFL Blitz, Arcade1Up version. I played it online. I had a bunch of fun, but there were those arcade purists that were saying, well, it's not really NFL Blitz. The late hits are gone. This is gone. Well, now think about these wrestling games with so many things gone. So first off is the superstars. Well, okay, I'll start there. There's a comment here from the bad guy Mike Worley that I want to bring up. First of all is the fact that, let's be honest here, you're not going to be able to call it WWF Superstars or WWF WrestleFest just because WWF gave up on a legal case that they were having a fight with the World Wildlife Federation way back in the 80s and 90s, and WWF just threw in the towel, and they were like, whatever, we're going to change the name. So now it's World Wrestling Entertainment. So all WWF likenesses will have to be removed from the game and replaced with WWE. To me, that's not that big of an issue. I don't really care about that. I can live with that. So, I mean, if WWF's not in there, I mean, that's fine. But where it gets extremely tricky is the fact that there's certain wrestlers that possibly won't be in the game. So let me just bring this up. I'm going to bring up the roster for you guys to see here. 1 second. All right. My camera is being really, really tricky today. So let me just bring this up on screen. So guys, here is, I mean, some of the roster. This is from the promotional poster. You've got the Big Boss Man, Legion of Doom, Jake the Snake Roberts, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Earthquake, who Mrs. Kongzaros says that I look exactly like, Mr. Perfect, and Sergeant Slaughter. So let me tell you, there's a bunch Stupid Fat Hobbit says, I already posted who is under Legends contract and who is not. Anyways, awesome. I'll have to check that out. And F is just a one-legged E anyways. So from this poster and from the game here, you can see that Mr. Perfect, you're good. Mr. Perfect can be in the game. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, he can be in the game. Big Boss Man can be in the game. Ultimate Warrior can be in the game. Hulk Hogan can be in the game. Michael Burry, a.k.a. Earthquake, can be in the game. This is where it starts to get tricky because, as I mentioned, with the concussion lawsuit earlier, not featured on the screen here, but there is the tag team of Demolition. Now, Demolition have always been one of those ones that are just gone from the WWE landscape, completely forgotten because they're a huge part of the WWE concussion lawsuit. So what happens with that is, sure, they might not be under Legends contracts, but Arcade1Up can go to Demolition and say, hey, we want to put you in this game. They agree to it, but then they have to go back to WWF or WWE and get approval to use Demolition alongside their current branding. And where they're attached to that concussion lawsuit, they may not be agreeable to do so. So Demolition immediately becomes a problem. So you're not going to get your whole original roster. So we get into an Xbox 360 WrestleFest situation where now all of a sudden you take Demolition out, potentially. You're going to have to replace them with other superstars. And you can do that. There's lots of great wrestlers that were alive in that era. Do you do retro superstars? Or do you do current superstars? Like, I can automatically think of, how about adding Ric Flair to WrestleFest? How about adding Bret the Hitman Hart to WrestleFest? How about adding Hacksaw Jim Duggan to WrestleFest? How about adding The Undertaker to WrestleFest? Sid Justice? There's a million options that you could add in to replace Demolition, but Demolition will be gone. That sucks, but it's not the end of the world. So let's go back and take a look at some of the other people on this screen here. So next up, we have Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, someone will jump in and tell me that Jake the Snake Roberts is under a Legends contract, and that's entirely true. He's even in, I think, the last WWE release game, so there's precedent for it. But you got to remember, Jake Roberts currently works for AEW. He's a manager for, Lance Archer. So he's Lance Archer's manager in AEW. It's questionable whether or not they want to use him, but I'm leaning on the fact Jake will probably be in the game. So Jake's not so much of an issue, which is a good thing because when I play, I always play as in tag team mode, Mr. Perfect and Jake the Snake. So that works out for me. Yeah, Prince Malcolm's got an excellent suggestion there. What about adding the Steiner Bros in? That would be a great addition. Good call there. So here we move on to the next thing. So Jake might be gone, but what about this guy down here, Sergeant Slaughter? Now you may be saying Sergeant Slaughter's been in tons of WWE games. He's iconic. He's been around forever. But what you might not know is Sergeant Slaughter just signed a new deal with Hasbro. So you may have noticed that they've been doing a lot more G.I. Joe stuff with Sergeant Slaughter lately. And here's what you don't know. The reason Slaughter originally left the WWF back in the day and wasn't around for a bunch of years was because he left to go do G.I. Joe, to have his likeness be used by them. That's why we never got an LJN Superstars Sergeant Slaughter toy. If you guys are big, the Hasbro G.I. Joe 3.5 quarter-inch figure collectors, you may remember that they used to have these, you used to be able to cut out the barcodes and send them in and then send away for people. That's how I got my version of Major Blood. But the big giveaway through G.I. Joe was you could get your own rubberized LJN Superstar-like version of Sergeant Slaughter. He's one of the hardest wrestlers to collect, and one of the coolest things from that line of Hasbro G.I. Joe figures. So Sergeant Slaughter left for a while to go do G.I. Joe, and apparently his likeness and rights have gone and they're with Hasbro again. Now, that's not to say that this time he has an exclusive contract with Hasbro and he might not be in the game, but there's a possibility Slaughter could be out as well. So we're up to right now potentially four people from that WrestleFest roster potentially not being in the game. So it's up to you if that is a big deal or not, but Sergeant Slaughter might not be. Demolition definitely is not going to be, and there's a maybe on Jake. So up to the roster, and I got to get a better picture of the roster here for you guys. I'm sorry about this. Again, I was doing at a work meeting up until about, my God, 10 minutes before the show started, so I apologize greatly, guys. I should have already had this up for you guys. I am late tonight, but that's the way it is when real life gets in the way, right? I know, add the hot rod. I love the hot rod. So I'm just going to bring up the Wikipedia page. I wish I had a better... Where's the roster? My God. Here we go. So I just bring this up right now to share with you guys, and I will supersize it. So here's your roster. Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior, $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Big Boss Man, Jake the Snake Roberts, Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, Sergeant Slaughter, Demolition Smash, Demolition Crush, not even the real Demolition, and then Legion of Doom, Hawk, and Animal. So now this is where it's going to get super interesting, because we're going to talk about who may else not be in the game and why this, not just a couple wrestlers being changed, but why the next two people may fundamentally change your entire nostalgia and memory of the game if they're not included. This is where it gets interesting and really, really sad. One of the most iconic things about WrestleFest, as you're going through the game, sorry guys, as you're going through the game, is continually seeing this screen come up here. And that is with the Legion of Doom, as you're going through the tag team battle, the Legion of Doom continue to come up, and you get an update, because the whole game, the whole purpose of the story mode with the tag team is making your way through the ranks to challenge the Legion of Doom for the tag team titles. WrestleFest fundamentally is built on the journey to challenge the Legion of Doom for the tag team titles. But what if I told you there's a possibility the Legion of Doom might not even be in it? You see, their Legends contracts expired a couple of years ago, and for whatever reason weren't re-signed. Apparently, Animal is also taking part in the CTE concussion lawsuit, or he did, and basically at that point, WWE have considered these guys, I guess, persona non grata. That's why Retromania Wrestling was able to get the license for Road Warrior, Hawk, and Animal and add them to Retromania Wrestle. And they paid money, big money, to get those guys. That was probably their biggest expenditure. And you're probably saying, well, why those two guys? Because of how goddamn important they were to WrestleFest. And then the added feature of, well, you can never play as them in WrestleFest. Now you could play as them. They were playable characters in Retromania Wrestling. So I guess here's the core question. So they get WrestleFest, they put it out, and these 6 superstars aren't in it. Specifically, these 2 superstars, when you're doing storyline mode, are no longer there. Is it still WrestleFest? That's the question I want to ask you guys. I just spilled coffee all over myself and all over my white shirt. This is a nightmare. So I'm waiting to hear feedback from you guys. My chat on my chat window is running a little bit slow. I'm going to turn back here now. Everybody's saying you got to have Mean Gene's voice. Mean Gene, for that part, I agree. I don't think Mean Gene's a problem. He's under a Legends contract. But the other side, too, this is a little bit less important, but there's a female ring announcer used for actually the introductions when the guy comes down to the screen. If you guys don't know, her name is actually Mike McGurk. So I'd be interested to see if they can still use her and use her likeness, or would they have to replace that person as well? So there's a million different variables that come into play here when redeveloping this game. A lot of people are throwing out great solutions, like Gotham City Arcade says Heart Foundation. Yeah, so I mean, fundamentally, you're going to have to change the entire game, and the storyline mode for tag team with Legion of Doom gone would have to be replaced by a different set of wrestlers. I mean, you could do the Superstars angle and make it Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant, because that's what you're doing in Superstars. It was all about getting to the championship match against the Megabucks. So you could bring back the Megabucks and have the Megabucks be the tag team in WrestleFest, but that's a little bit off era. So I think the tag team champions around that time, after Demolition, Smash, and Crush lost the titles, they lost to the Hart Foundation. And Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart would be a potential good replacement. You could look at doing the Nasty Boys. They're not as exciting, but they were tag team champions around this time, so they would be a good solution. You could do the Natural Disasters. No, it's a little bit too early for the Natural Disasters. Maybe even a little bit too early for the Steiner Brothers. But you would have to replace the Legion of Doom, who are so integral and so important to WrestleFest. I question then at that point, would it be the same game, or are we in another situation where this is going to be people immediately from day one kind of shitting on it and saying, this is just like Blitz. It's not the same game. Now, me personally, I'm open to the change. It's not the same game, but Old School Pro Wrestling's got a cool answer. Add Colonel Mustafa and General Adnan for, I keep saying that wrong, Colonel Mustafa and General Adnan for Slaughter. Yeah. That's a cool option. Earthquake and Typhoon, I just mentioned that, but that came a little bit later. That came after $1 Million Man and IRS held the titles. That's more around WrestleMania 9. I think WrestleFest is really right around WrestleMania 7, 8. That would be the landscape for when WrestleFest came out. So that's the area you got to think of. But then again, why am I getting on with it? The area you got to think of, because if you go back to the Xbox 360 game, they can just take wrestlers from any era and throw them in there. What I hope doesn't happen, and this is what I'm going to be clear about, as much as, you know, losing the Legion of Doom sucks fundamentally for the game, it's going to completely kill a lot of the nostalgia that I have for playing the original WrestleFest. I mean, you can bring in other people. The only thing I'm concerned about is that they do what they did with that goddamn Xbox 360 game, because that completely killed the nostalgia for me. I just want to bring it up again. So let me show you this again. I'm going to bring this up on screen, make it full screen. You take a look at this here. I mean, this isn't WrestleFest. Like, bringing Macho Man in, awesome addition. I don't know why he wasn't in WrestleFest in the first place. He was such an integral part of Superstars. Love to see him back in WrestleFest. I think that's a really good idea. But Shawn Michaels, the Rockers were around back then. You could put the Rockers in there. Maybe the Rockers could replace Demolition. I think the Rockers would be a pretty cool addition in there. But when you take more modern guys, and let's see if I can go forward here and find someone else, or is he just play as Michaels? And yeah, you can take a look at the roster here. You've got John Cena, Randy Orton, Alberto Del Rio, The Miz. I think CM Punk's in this too. That's what I don't want to see happen. I don't want to see modern superstars. Like, I don't want to see Walk with Elias in this. I don't want to see who else is it? I don't want to see this. You know what I mean? I want to see classic superstars that give me nostalgia for that time period. I don't want them to bring in John Cena. I don't want them to bring in Batista. I don't want them to, and they're legends themselves now. They're all retired. I don't want them to bring in Roman Reigns. I don't want them to bring in Cody Rhodes. If you're going to do WrestleFest and you can't do the original guys, do age appropriate guys. At least make it feel nostalgic for that era of wrestling when the game came out. Now, and like, even if you expand the roster and bring in other guys like they did with this game and make it like 20 or 30 playable characters, the only problem with that is my nostalgia is going to completely go out the window the minute the CPU picks one of these roster guys I don't want to see and adds them to the mix. Like, my nostalgia is gone. I know I'm being super critical, but I just got to be honest with you guys here. The other thing I hope Arcade1Up doesn't do with this title that they did with Blitz is, if you take a look at the graphics, these are modernized graphics. If you're going to redo WrestleFest, don't do what you did with Blitz and say you're making this HD version. Just give us the original graphics. Make it look like the original game. Don't take any of the nostalgia away from it. Don't try to clean it up. Just make it WrestleFest. And definitely don't do what they did with the graphics here, because let me get this ad off about the handsome guy in the boat and the mermaid. Well, it was over anyways, so I'll close that down. Anyways, don't do that. All you gotta do, just make normal ass WrestleFest. Don't do anything special with the graphics. Don't try to modernize it all. Just make WrestleFest. Has to have the Technos graphics. I completely agree. The fabulous Rougeau brothers. Yeah, they were still around there, and they had the greatest theme song of all time. Written by Jimmy Hart and performed by the Rougeaus themselves. If you get a chance, Google All American Boys, the Rougeaus theme song from their last run in WWE. It was miraculous. From Montreal, Quebec to the USA. I can't remember the rest, but it just goes like that. Demolition in the late 1980s. I love Demolition. I grew up a WWF guy, so I know that Demolition were I don't know what you call it, like a knockoff of the Legion of Doom, but again, Demolition were awesome. They were tag team champions for almost 4 years. They were the mainstay in the tag team division in WWF, and they have one of the best theme songs of all time, so yeah. Anyways, so guys, that's kind of where I'm going with WrestleFest. Arcade1Up can do it, but keep in mind, if they do it, there's going to be heavy concessions. Heavy concessions to the roster and the nostalgia involved with the game. Now, there's another question that you guys are going to ask. There's another, WWF arcade game, wrestling game, that they could add in there as well. WrestleMania, the arcade game. You guys may remember this. B talked about it on a stream last night. Let me just bring it up for you here. B did a great stream last night, by the way. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed myself. So let's see if I can just bring it up. Did he play it? I remember telling him the game was stupid, but I think he did play it at one point. Oh yeah, here we go. So let me just bring this up for you guys now. This is last night. B and Mrs. Kongzeros were playing WrestleMania, the arcade game. Now, this was done with more digitized graphics. They took that Mortal Kombat style. Mortal Kombat had just blown up, so I'm sure Vince McMahon had a meeting where he was like, yeah, let's make a wrestling game, but make it like Mortal Kombat. This was all the rage at the time. Everybody started doing this. But it took a lot of the core wrestling components out of it and made it more of a ridiculous fighting game. Now, I don't love this game, but I know a lot of people absolutely do. They think it's amazing. Could this possibly show up on a WrestleFest cab as a third game? Would that make up for some of the fact that you're not going to get the original rosters from the original game? And the answer is maybe, but it's a very slight possibility. Very slight possibility. The reason why is it goes back to licensing again, and this is the complication with it. While it's all WWF and we should all be one happy family, you've got the publisher for arguably the better wrestling games and more well-known, Superstars and WrestleFest, which is Technos on one side, and then on the other side, you've got Midway. Midway are actually the publishers and developers of this game. And if you guys remember the X-Men Arcade1Up cabinet, it was the first time they had a cabinet that actually had dual publishers working with each other, because we had Konami for X-Men, and then we had Data East or G-Mode come in and kind of do revenue sharing on the cabinet to allow Captain America and the Avengers and Avengers Galactic Storm to be on the cabinet. Now, here's the thing. As much as I think that was cool, and there's definitely a precedent for it being done, let's be honest, neither Technos or Midway are, G-Mode. Data East are willing to put their games on literally anything. I've made this joke a million times. I could come up with a system tomorrow. Hell, Soldier Boy could contact them and say, I want to license your games. And they would be like, no problem. Here's the games. They don't cost very much. So G-Mode are a much easier target to agree to something like shared licensing with Konami, especially with Konami probably taking a higher cut. I don't know how easily Technos and Midway would work together. So for those people hoping for the ultimate WWF Arcade1Up cab that has Superstars, WrestleFest, and WrestleMania the arcade game, I don't think it's a possibility, guys. Sorry. Mike thinking Vince McMahon knows what Mortal Kombat is. I know, Vince McMahon. Don't kid yourself. Vince McMahon knows a little bit about pop culture. Let's all be clear here. Roman Reigns has been his chosen guy for one weird, very weird reason. It's not just the fact he comes from the Noai family, and they have that lineage with The Rock and with the rest of the family, the Samoans. Do not kid yourself. It helped that a certain TV show came out called Game of Thrones, and Jason Momoa, Khal Drogo, looked a lot like Roman Reigns, and he was such a heartthrob that Vince said, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be over so big. Don't kid yourself. Vince, who doesn't watch TV, is a little bit more aware of pop culture, and he does have people that tell him about pop culture. That's a big part of Roman Reigns' push. I 1,000% believe that. Believe it. So, I'm completely off track now thinking about how Roman Reigns and Jason Momoa look so much alike. I got one a couple of minutes ago. uBlock won't block in-stream ads. Like yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. It's a new thing YouTube are doing, and I'm sorry if it messes up the progress of the stream. I hate that for you guys. Michael B., you are a heartthrob. I do not know about that. I don't think Vince McMahon's creating a wrestler based on me. Marvel also owns Hulk Hogan's name. Do they? I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure WWE still have the complete rights to that. Was there a court case over Hulk and then Hulk Hogan? I don't know. I don't know about that. Anyways, so going into it, realistically, there's only going to be 2 games on this cabinet, which are Superstars and WrestleFest. So it's another one of these 4-player cabs with only 2 games. There is an option to add other games to the cabinet because Technos, WrestleFest, and Superstars wasn't their first run at making wrestling games. They made a bunch of other ones, and they're in fact on the iArcade already. You've got Mat Mania, you've got Tag Team Wrestling. There's a bunch of excellent Technos wrestling games that they could potentially add to the cabinet that works out well with the publisher Technos. Here's where it gets tricky though. Will WWE agree to it? Because I'll give you an example, like the Simpsons cab. We all said, man, Simpsons doesn't have a lot of games. Why couldn't they supplement that with some excellent other Konami beat-em-up games that were not licensable games like X-Men or something like that? Why couldn't they put on Violent Storm or one of their other excellent beat-em-ups could have went on the game along with the Simpsons? The reason why is Disney, the Simpsons, actually blocked that. They don't know if they want their IP attached to something else. So this is where it gets complicated for the fact that Mat Mania might not be able to make it on the cabinet because WWE could potentially block a wrestling game that has nothing to do with WWE showing up on the cabinet. So there you go. This is just an absolute logjam of shit that all goes in there. So in order to get to the final destination, so we're looking at a WrestleFest cab with only two games on it, and multiple characters missing from the titular title, WrestleFest. Now, I'm saying all this negative stuff. Why should they even do it in the first place then, if I'm being so critical about the number of games, concessions they would have to make? Because it's also WrestleFest. If they do it right, anybody who's ever played WrestleFest knows it's probably the funnest wrestling game ever made. And to hell with the concessions. I mean, it might not be WrestleFest for some. We might be exactly back in the Blitz option where people are like, it's not the real Blitz. But it's what we can get from Arcade1Up, knowing all the hurdles and obstacles they have to go through. This is the best they're going to be able to do. I heard some rumors about it not even being called WrestleFest, like it being called WrestleFest Heroes or WrestleFest Legends like they did with Blitz. I don't know if that's necessarily what they should do. Even if it's not the exact same game, just friggin' call it WrestleFest and people will be happy. So you had to change some of the characters. I hope that they're in the same mindset that I am of keeping it nostalgic and period appropriate in terms of the wrestlers they had back in. But I want to talk about the fun of the game. Being able to play through that tag team title tournament, even though you're probably not playing against the Legion of Doom, is still an absolute blast. Still a ton of fun. And being able to do the Royal Rumble, honestly, one of my favorite arcade experiences of all time is going through that Royal Rumble. So many different things can happen. And here's what Arcade1Up can do that your home emulation device or playing it through your MVSX through emulation can't do. And I know I'm going to get egg on my face for saying this, but they can add online. They can make it playable via online. I know Fightcade, people can play it that way and they can play online with people, but say, for example, you don't use Fightcade, you want an Arcade1Up recreation of the original cabinet, done with that Midway style, like NFL Blitz. I mean, the Blitz cabinet itself looks beautiful. The art sucks. Hopefully they don't change the art for the WrestleFest cab. Dear God, don't change the art like you did with Blitz. Hopefully they recreate the exact WrestleFest cab the way it should look. And then if some people are gone, we've got a great looking recreation cab in our homes. And then we can play an online version of WrestleFest or Superstars against each other. We can do a battle royal, Arcade1Up fans, battle royal, throwing people out with hopefully not John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, hopefully era specific people. And that's where this game adds a lot of value for me. Being able to play it online with friends with all the benefits Arcade1Up provides, the replica cabinet, it can be done. Online, this goes to the top of my list. I think that's the real key here. If they can make it so it's online, so it plays well, so the experience is fun, they don't try to dick with things too much and change like the look of the cabinet, or they don't try to change anything they don't need to change. Like, I will go back to Blitz. I feel like they were almost overcompensating for having to take some stuff out by trying to add these features that, sure, are cool, but we didn't really need. We just want a cabinet that looks like the original cabinet and a game that plays like the original game with the benefit of online play. I'm telling you right now, online Royal Rumble will probably be one of the best experiences on Arcade1Up system. Sure, it's not going to have the Legion of Doom. Sure, it's not going to have the $1 Million Man. It'll have $1 Million Man. Sure, it's not going to have the Legion of Doom. Sure, it's not going to have Demolition. Sure, it might not have Sergeant Slaughter. And sure, it might not have Jake the Snake. But I think it will have Jake the Snake. I think overall, the experience, if they do it right, can still be very special. It's going to lose a lot of its nostalgia, but it can still be very special and be a winner. So let me know, guys, with all the stuff I talked about the concessions and how hard it would be, do you think just having the cabinet, having an accurate cabinet with the accurate art, obviously there would have to be some changes on the art. A couple people have to come out of those stars to fit the people they're going to be replacing them with. But having that cabinet with that beautiful look, all the ribbons going across it, and then having online tag team tournaments and online Royal Rumbles, wouldn't that experience be amazing? I do have high hopes, Zero Hero. I can't help it. I got high hopes, I know. That's just my nature, man. I'm a high hopes kind of guy. I can't help it. I always try to see the best. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy, but I think it can still be very, very, very good. Here we go. I'm trying to just get the chat back up. My chat wasn't working very well tonight for some reason. Yeah, that's a good point. If 2K can't get online match working going, I don't have high hope. Arc System Works is the new publisher. They bought the rights to Technos games. Yeah, I know that. Maybe they'll work with Midway. Who knows? Man. That's why he keeps looking up. Yeah, they're going to make John Cena lay down to Austin Theory. More than likely. I mean, it would be surreal for a part-timer to walk into a show, win a belt, and then stick around. Travis says, Michael B's secret character confirmed. You heard it here first. A midway style cab at WWF WrestleMania would be great. Langs, I said this. I don't like that game. Maybe it would be great, but the problem with that one is, if you're upset with the Technos cab only having 2 games, what else goes on the Midway WrestleMania? Literally nothing. So that's a tough one. Maybe you get some console games. Like WWF Super WrestleMania came to Super Nintendo, WWF Royal Rumble, and WWF Raw, that were all console 16-bit games that came out around that time. Maybe you could do that, but that'd be tough, man. Really, really tough. Anyways, I'd rather have Qbert. 2 years ago, John D was hanging with AJ Styles. Yeah, I'm sure he has connections. And believe me, guys, if there's anybody that can make this happen, it's John. John has great connections. He's good at what he does. So, man, I don't know what's going on with this today, but I can't get this chat off the screen now. Kidding me. There we go. Holy God, that's still up there. Well, Chris, your comment's going to be there forever because it's not coming off the screen. 1 second here, guys. See if I can get this fixed. My good God. Man, I'm having some problems tonight. That's it. I'm never doing work meetings before my show again. Ever, 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 ever. There we go. So, guys, that's really... Which cab is better, the WrestleFest cab or the WWF WrestleMania cab? Well, I'm biased. I think WrestleFest. But I'm biased. I don't like the WrestleMania game. Anyways, that's all I want to say on that. I think that if they do release a WrestleFest, it's going to be not 100% the experience that you guys are going to remember. A lot of the nostalgia will be gone, but keep that in mind going into it. If you know that going into it, you don't need to tear it apart. It's going to be what it's going to be. A lot of these things are out of their hands. If you still want it, you're getting a concessionized version of it. It's not because they're laying down to the WWE because of, you know, everybody said that with late hits. That was Arcade1Up laying down to the NFL because of the concussion stuff. But just realize you're getting a version of WrestleFest, the absolute best they could have. And even when it came out on the 360, they couldn't get a lot of these guys. So just keep that in mind. If you want a WrestleFest, this is what it's going to have to be. So, yeah, it just means online for WrestleFest is important and a priority. I agree. Anyways, before we get finished tonight, that's really all I want to say on this. For the people looking forward to it, I think it is going to happen. So for the people that have been waiting, I think WrestleFest is a reality finally. It's going to happen, and I think it could be a huge win for Arcade1Up. But at the same time, for people looking for that, you know, authentic WrestleFest experience, you're not going to get it. You're going to get a concession version. So there you go. Anyways, before we get finished up, I did want to talk about some personal stuff that I just wanted to bring up. One of the funny things is I've sold off some of my Arcade1Up cabs because I'm, you know, clearing out space to make a playroom for my kids. And one of the cool concessions was my wife said, hey, you want to get that pinball table? Why don't you take a shot at it? So I, you know, got a loan and I ended up getting my pinball table. So that's very cool. But then there came this weird narrative in the community that all of a sudden I'm no longer an Arcade1Up channel. And now all of a sudden I'm a pinball channel. And I was like, I have one pinball table. What is my new channel name going to be? Michael B and his one pinball table? Lonely Guy and his one pinball table? Like, obviously, I like pinball. I'm going to cover it. I'm very interested in it. Obviously, I just bought a pinball machine. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to cover other things. Like, I don't consider myself to have a certain brand channel. Like, I don't have a home arcade channel. I don't have a retro gaming channel. I don't have a pinball channel. I have a Michael B channel. And I come on here and I just generally tell you guys about my life and what I'm interested in. And I'm going to keep doing that. So am I going to start talking about pinball? Yeah, I'm really interested in it. But does that mean I'm not going to talk about the other things I'm interested in? No, I'm not chasing a hot topic or anything here. I'm just, you know, telling you what I like. So hopefully that makes sense. I know. I was supposed to show you guys Godzilla. I was supposed to do a live stream from it Saturday, but my snowblower broke. Partially my own fault. I'll tell you about that now. So I had my brother come over and help me because I had to change the spark plug, and I've never done that on my snowblower before. Change the spark plug and do an oil change. And when we were doing the oil change, he was like, something wrong with your oil. It's supposed to come out much faster than that. Can you show me the oil you've been putting them in? I handed him the bottle, and I had stupidly put antifreeze in my oil. So that's probably why my snowblower stopped working. Oh, my God. So it's my own fault. I may have destroyed my... triple down Mike. I may have destroyed my snowblower. So anyways, he was over helping me with that, and we just ran late, so I couldn't do the stream. So I reschedule it now. It's going to be tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I'll finally be able to stream Godzilla, so I apologize for the delay, guys. Anyways, another thing happened last night, and I almost became Michael B, the 2 pinball guy. So I want to show you. I want to show you guys this. So last night, someone that is a friend here locally, he's a Arcade1Up guy as well, and he sent this to me, and I freaked out. Like, I was there trying, like, I was like, how in God's name do I explain this to my wife? But it was just such a good deal, I couldn't pass it up. So let me see if I still got it here. Yeah, here it is. So I want to just show you guys this ad. So I've talked about this a bunch of times. No arcade stuff and no pinball stuff ever comes up here for sale. Never. It's never available. When it is, it's usually from collectors who know what they have and either price accordingly or price ridiculously due to the condition the stuff is in. They still try to sell it at like new condition. So yesterday, Stefan sent me this ad for a Williams Funhouse machine in working order. Pretty good order, mind you. The only problem was there was a slight issue with the audio where it would dim during time. So it might just been a thing about replacing a soundboard for $4,000 Canadian. And while that does still seem like a significant amount, you have to keep in mind that a Williams Funhouse is an incredible table, very highly desired. And on top of that, usually sells for about $8,000 to $9,000. Well, no, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. $6,500 to $7,500 US. US, that's the average going price according to Pinside. So this was $4,000 Canadian, equivalent to about like $3,200 US. So I was going to be able to get a Williams Funhouse in working condition with extra bulbs, balls, all the whistles for $4,000. And my wife was like, I was explaining to her, she said, go for it. I messaged the guy and I missed it by that much. It was gone by the time I got through to him. The ad was still up when it was sent to me. And then right after I sent him the message, a couple minutes later, the ad got taken down and he sent me a message. He was like, sorry, man, just sold it. So I missed out on possibly getting my second pinball table, and what a friggin' score this would have been. I know it's still $4,000, but geez Louise. And I even had someone write me on Twitter because I posted it, and I said, yeah, guys, I missed out on this Williams Funhouse for $4,000, and he was like, watch out for scammers. And I was like, sadly, not a scammer. That was the real deal. Yeah, Charlie Chuck told me about this. I actually sent the ad to Charlie Chuck. See if I can bring the chat back up and show you this, guys. So I actually showed the ad to Charlie Chuck, and he said, how about the person that told them to raise the price from $600? It was originally posted at $600, and someone smartened him up to what it was worth. Still didn't get all the way there, but it was originally posted for $600. And Matt Asher Gamer, you're telling me the same thing, but it's not. It's not. This was the real deal, man. Believe it or not. Octoman's PC. On a side note, what's the deal with the Lux cabs? Some got it, others didn't. The release date was never announced. You got any idea, Mike? That's a good question. So, anyways, that's it for Funhouse. I almost had a chance at, like, what is Holy Grail cab, one of the best Williams pinball games of all time for a ridiculous price yesterday. And I was gutted I missed it. But at the same time, I was a little bit relieved, too, because I'm not in a position right now, space-wise or financially, to take on another big investment like that. But it was one of those deals that were just too good to pass up. So sucks I missed out on it. But, you know, oh, man, what could have been. So, yeah, locally, too. The guy was in the same town that's about 10 minutes away from me where my parents live. So on top of that, the fact that you have this absolute grail of a pinball machine to find at a ridiculous price, I could have went and picked it up in my car 10 minutes away. So, Jesus Christ. Save up for an At Games 4K instead. I don't think so, JJ. I'm pretty happy with my At Games Legends pinball table. I don't know if I'll get the ALP 4K. Maybe. We'll see. So, here's the thing. Yeah, Paul 80, I know of a T2. So, funny story about that T2. The guy, Michael, that actually originally showed me his Godzilla pinball table, he had that T2 at one point, and he fixed it up, and he told me he sold it for like $800, and I was like, You got to be kidding me. I would have bought that in a minute. So, Paul, if you know of a T2 and you know where I can buy one, give me the heads up, man, on the down low. Let me know. Jason, well, going back to the deluxe cabs, I don't know what's going on with the deluxe cabs. This is a very strange launch from Arcade1Up. I think the intention was for them to do a launch on their website and sell them directly from the website. Arcade1Up is better off doing direct-to-consumer. Obviously, they get a higher cut of the proceeds from the sale of the cab. And for the last little while, whenever they've announced the cab, they actually have like an hour or 2 hour head start on all the other retailers putting it out, but somehow Best Buy have put them in stores and they're on sale currently with a street date of Sunday with no announcement for Arcade1Up. So I don't know if this is a marketing snafu, a confusion with retailers on when they were supposed to be available. I have no idea what's going on. Limited stock going to limited warehouse. It seems to just be Best Buy right now. I can't tell you what's happening. I think the best thing for all of us to do is to just sit back and wait for the next announcement from Arcade1Up when these are going to be available. Hell, let's check on their website right now. Sorry for looking up like this. See if they're officially available through Arcade1Up. New arrivals. So here we go. Let's look at Mortal Kombat. Notify me. So it's not even available on their website currently. I don't have an answer for you. To me, this just seems dumb. And I'm not in the US, so I can't look it up. I don't even know if they're available on the Best Buy website. It might be in-store only at this point. Yeah, not all Best Buys have them earlier either. Biggie D's Arcade says. Charlie Chuck says, it's not like Arcade1Up to screw up. You know, I wish that statement was just kind of a har-har joke, but at this point, it's not har-har anymore. It's a weird release. Definitely some stuff just doesn't make sense. I have no idea. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know what the hell's going on. It seems like some kind of botch either happened at a marketing standpoint or a retailer relations standpoint, but I have no friggin' idea. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully these become widely available soon, and hopefully they're really good. Arcade1Up need a win. I will say, I do take a little bit of personal, I take it as a shot where they're really punching up the 80s on these cabs because I've been so mad at Arcade1Up for not working on doing more 80s stuff in the last little while, but all these look great. I'm happy for the people getting the deluxe cabs that have cleared out room for them. I think you guys are getting some good products. It looks like a good monitor. From what I hear, the sound is really good. Build cabinet, the quality is really good. You get the coin door, speaker grills. This looks like a pretty good product, so excited for those people. Like I mentioned, here in Canada, I won't even be able to even consider buying one till July or August, so I don't have anything more to say than that. Anyways, guys, so I almost became Mikey B Pinball 2 Tables, but luckily, maybe luckily, it sucks that I missed out on it, but luckily at the same time, no second pinball table. And, I'll keep looking for opportunities. Maybe something else will come up. I saw an ad for a deconstructed arcade machine today. All original parts, just needs to be put back together for like $100. I was like, what am I getting myself into here? So, Paul, dear God, my email is povmb@yahoo.ca or Michael Burry on Facebook. Please, if there's a Terminator Judgment Day pinball here in Newfoundland that is accessible, that might be sold, please get in touch with me. Oh, my wife's going to kill me. Anyways, before I get in too much trouble, I think we'll call it a night there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I did this partly out of spite, just because someone made fun of me and said I'd make a 20-minute video, but at the same time, something I really want to talk about too, and I'm excited for Arcade1Up to release a WrestleFest cab. It might not be the nostalgic experience we're all really super hoping it could be, but hopefully it's still good. They pay respect to the period-appropriate licensing they can do at that time and the people they can put in it, and at the end of the day, it'll still feel like WrestleFest. It'll be an online experience we can all enjoy. And hopefully they do it right. Anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of your Monday night. This is Michael B. the Game Genie. I'll talk to you next time. Still haven't added the end screen button to this Stream Deck. Anyways, guys, good night. You're all wonderful.